students, today we will be making an anchor chart for our first unit. But before I begin, I'm going to give you a second to get out your science notebook, and if you have some markers, you can get those out. If not, you can just use a pencil or whatever. It's not really about being pretty, it's about getting that content in. But I will be using some pretty markers. So pause this video and get your supplies out. All right, hopefully now you're unpaused. Today we will be doing our first anchor chart for our first unit, which is states of matter and properties of matter. So first, what is matter? We can define matter as anything that takes up space and has mass. So you're in your journal writing what I'm writing, except you're just doing it on paper and I'm doing it on an anchor chart. So anything that takes up space or has mass. So I am matter because I take up space and I have mass, but this marker is also matter. It takes up space and has mass. But what is mass? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's what we're going to go over next. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. So it can be light or heavy. So mass is the amount of matter in an object. This can be light, such as a feather, or heavy, like a weight. This is like a 10-pound weight. Just so you know, I am not a great artist, so this is going to be quick on the fly, and it's okay if it's not pretty. It's about understanding what we're talking about. So yours doesn't have to be beautiful and magical either. So the reason we're going to be talking about matter and mass is to classify matter. And the way we classify matter is by its physical properties. So a physical property is the characteristics of matter that you can observe or measure directly. If I keep looking over here, it's because my cheat sheet's over here, guys. Characteristics of matter that you can observe or measure directly. And there are lots of different physical properties. In this video, we're going to talk about a lot of different physical properties. So we're going to put all these down here in all these squares. There's a lot of physical properties that we can use to classify matter. In this video, we're going to be talking about some physical properties that you're probably aware of or have heard of before. So the first is color. So green, orange, blue, red, all the markers and pass them. Pink. Purple. All the colors. So color is a physical property that most objects or matter has, and it's one way you can describe an object. The next one we're going to talk about is hardness. So when you think about hardness, you ask yourself, can it easily be bent or dent? Bent or dent. So something like a nut or an acorn, for instance, is really hard. So it has a lot of hardness, and it cannot easily bend or dent. I'm going to draw a little acorn here. Remember, I'm not an artist. There's an acorn. But something like grapes is not very hard. It's more soft or squishy, and you could just squish one with your fingers. So it would not have a lot of hardness. That's another way that we can describe or classify matter. The next one is by size. So some words that might come to mind when you think of size are big, small, long, short, tall, fat, thin. Those are a lot of good describing words, and size is a physical property of matter. I'm going to write these examples down. Small or big. Do thin or thick. Short or long. Skinny or fat. So those are some words we might use when we're talking about size. Next, we're going to talk about texture. So texture might not be a word that you're familiar with, but texture is the word that we use to describe how something feels. So bumpy, rough, smooth, pointy, soft. Texture is how something feels. So how it feels. So bumpy. Soft, maybe like a pillow or a bed. Pointy, kind of looks like mountains. Maybe smooth or rough. Those are some words that we could use to describe a physical property, texture. Let's see, what color haven't I used? Let's do orange. So we talked about how something feels. Next we can talk about how something smells. And when we're talking about smell, We're talking about something's odor. So odor is smell. So some examples of how something could smell are stinky or fresh or rotten or sweet. So I'm going to draw just a little face up here with a nose so we can think of smell. Smell with your nose. Said fresh, rotten, lemony, sweet, smelly, I said sweet. Okay, I can't think of any more right now. So these are some words that we use to describe something's odor. Remember, in science, especially when we're doing a lab, we're going to whiff to waft. And the next thing is taste. So remember, when we're in science, we don't put anything in our mouths. There might be some exceptions, but your teacher would tell you. But taste is another one. But you're not usually going to taste anything in science class. So taste. So something may taste salty. Or sweet. Like an ice cream. Put some sprinkles on there. Everything's better with sprinkles. Or sour. Or bitter, maybe like a lemon. Or spicy, like a jalapeno. So taste is another physical property of matter. The last one we're going to talk about is shape. So usually when you're describing something, you can describe it with its shape. Something could be square. Or round. Or circle, or triangle, let's see what else, cube, let's get real fancy and we'll go a trapezoid. Or a hexagon. And hex means 6, so the hexagon has 6 sides. So let's see, what have we got here? We talked about matter. Matter is anything that takes up space or has mass. Mass being the amount of matter in an object. So is it light or heavy? And later we'll talk about sinking or floating. Physical property is a characteristic of matter that you can observe or measure directly. So here's some examples of things that we can observe or measure directly of any object. So by the end of this unit, you'll be able to take any object, and just by observing it, you should be able to determine if it's hard or soft, its size, shape, texture, taste, odor, color. But but we're going to learn about some other physical properties of matter that maybe you're not familiar with. So these ones you should be able to use right now, but the next ones we're going to be talking about throughout this unit, like conductivity and insolubility, maybe you haven't heard of yet, but we'll explore them throughout this unit. If you haven't seen all of the anchor chart, I'm going to have my camera person kind of zoom in on this so you can pause your video and get anything that you missed.